Welcome, Rebecca. I am so happy that you were able to make time to have this conversation. And I just wanted to let everybody know what this conversation was born out of. Is it okay if I share, Rebecca?
Of course.
Okay, so Rebecca is amazing, and she and I were having a conversation earlier this week about, just all of what's going on in the world right now and the sorts of grants that are available to people. But Rebecca has been working with entrepreneurs and people of that nature and small business for quite a while now, even before we all had an opportunity to look at the option of grants being a part of supporting our businesses. And Rebecca's on a mission, guys, and I want to make sure that we all support her in this mission as much as we can. And here's the reason that I believe so strongly in what she's offering. She used this analogy and I was like, yep, this is perfect. She said that you could teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for a day, but in a couple of days when your fish run out, then you really have nothing else to offer him and he'll probably starve. Everybody gets that, right?
Yes.
Now, if you give a man, instead of giving him a fish or even teaching him to fish, if you actually give him a grant so that he can, I don't know, build some boats, hire some people, teach a bunch of people how to fish, then the ripple effect into the world is so much greater than you would ever get by just giving a man a fish or even teaching a man how to fish. Do you guys get that? Do you see how absolutely profound what she's doing is? She's actually teaching people how to write grants, working with small business to get the funding that they need to be the voice in the world and to be able to influence the world in the way that they were meant to. And I just think that's amazing. And so I would like to invite Rebecca to tell us a little bit about her and tell us, Rebecca, a little bit about what it is that you have been doing even before all of this started.
Oh, pre-pandemic, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So my name's Rebecca Tuttle. I'm local here in Connecticut, and my business is Grant Right Now. Our mission is grant writing for good. And we help schools, nonprofits, businesses, and individuals find, write, and secure grant funding, and we teach you how to do it. And to date, I have traveled the whole country and have had clients from all over the world and taught now 6,011 people how to write grants and raised upward of $30 million. And just last year alone, we raised over $1 million in 10 months for our clients. So we've been pretty busy, teaching people how to fish, but it's fun. And every grant is different, which makes the work exciting. I work a lot with small businesses and help them with their persuasive narrative, which really is what grant writing is about. It's persuading someone to invest in your idea. So to be here today, Davia, thank you so much for the invitation, because I think it's going to be fun to talk about grants from a perspective that's not always the nonprofit sector. That's important too, but there's so many more opportunities popping up now with grants that weren't there before the pandemic. So exciting.
So, Rebecca, tell us a little bit about the opportunities that exist for small business as far as grants go that we've probably not been paying attention to, things that are different from like the PPP and the ESBI and things like that.
Okay, well, I took some notes. So if you see me looking over here, I want to make sure that I give you all the information that I put together for today. But we've been hearing so much about sorry, I forgot to turn my phone on mute. We've been hearing a lot about the Paycheck Protection Grants and a lot of opportunities through the SBA, but there are so many opportunities outside of that. that businesses are not really hearing enough about, at least in my opinion. I think we could be doing a better job of sharing that better with the world so that other opportunities are being pursued. And some of them are Burt's Bees, for example. They've been around for a long time. They have grants available. They do have some stipulations, though. Your business has to have a certain income threshold. They may, though, have modified their eligibility because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So you want to look into those folks. FedEx is another potential funder. And it's interesting because with FedEx, in order to apply for their grants and receive them, you have to tell FedEx, how will you incorporate FedEx's products within your business? So, it's a nice shared investment between the grantor, which would be FedEx, and the grantee, which would be us as the businesses, right? And there are other ones, the ladies' undergarment business, Spanx. You all know Spanx? They have a grant, and it's about $5,000. And with that, you get a red backpack, and the whole Spanx company has a history of that red backpack. So it's pretty fascinating. Then there's Verizon and Citizens Bank. I know I'm listing all these off, and what I'll do is I'll provide the links to all of these, at the end of the webinar so you guys can click around. But as you discover these grant opportunities for business, take a look at the story behind those grants and how they came about, and see how does that align with the mission of my business, and that's how you determine whether or not you're a good candidate to go after those funds. Oh, are you still there, Davia?
Yeah, I think I lost the audio for a minute there.
Oh. If you could still hear me, I have found that the opportunities for business grant funding, some of them are $5,000 and many of them are at $10,000. So that's a pretty sizable award if you think about that emergency pandemic funding available, $10,000 to use over the course of the next several months. That's quite a bit of money. If you're a smaller business, that's quite a bit of money. So are you okay? You hear?
I hear you completely fine.
Okay.
Well, I think Davia's having problem with her audio.
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's cutting in and out, but it's fine. It's
okay.
All is well. Everything is exactly the way it was supposed to be, right?
So I'm curious, has anyone on the panel, have you applied or seen any business grants that are available outside of the SBA?
I have not.
Oh no. Hi Gina, how are you? Good to see you.
Has anybody been able to be approved for any of the grants that are floating around, just out of curiosity? No?
I have actually gotten 2 myself.
Okay.
For my business. And my goal is to teach 10,000 people before the end of the year. So I had applied for funding to offer scholarships to people who want to learn grant writing through my Grant Right Now program. So I had gotten 2 of those already approved. So we're well on our way to reach 10K.
No, this is good stuff. This is very, very good information. What would your suggestions be for those of us who are kind of looking at possibly exploring some of the non-traditional grants that are out there? How would you suggest we go about evaluating our businesses?
So first and foremost, it's important, the expression know thyself, right? We talk about, we have to know what's going on internally before we can share with the world what's going on externally. So knowing where your funding comes in from, I know as a company or a business or an entrepreneur, you have revenue that's generated, and knowing where that comes from. Have you had any loss as a result of the pandemic? how much comes in from which different service or offering of your business. So if you provide counseling, how much revenue is generated there. If you have ebooks or books, that you generate revenue there, so that you can figure out when you discover these grant opportunities what you're going to apply those funds towards. Is it the loss of revenue, or maybe it's a gain in revenue, right, from book sales, because what you're offering is really helpful for people through what we're going through right now. The opportunities that you can pursue right now are the ones that you should be thinking about within your business. How is this opportunity going to move my business forward? And we don't want to get to the point where we desperately need the funding, right? We could all use it. I'm sure there's so much hardship out there right now, but we don't want to get to that very last moment of desperation. If you think that your business could benefit from these opportunities today, then you should really start to do your homework, think about what those opportunities look like within your business, and then learn about the ones outside that are willing to make investments in seeing your business succeed. And you want to pursue them, strategically, but you want to be proactive and take advantage of it right now.
Okay, so let me see if I am understanding what you're saying clearly. Certainly, you're not opposed to looking for funding to replace income lost by the quarantine. However, you're suggesting that we really look at our business to see how we can move our businesses ahead and kind of approach the grant funding process from that perspective. Is that
Yes,
kind of?
when we look at what is our primary core service that we provide our customers and clients, and then thinking about what's going on with the pandemic we're in, are those services still necessary right now? And by necessary, of course, we think our business services are relevant and necessary. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm saying based on the level of accessibility from your consumer to receive your business, what areas of your business may have to shift a little or change the way that they are delivered. So when we make these changes and shifts, are you still able to deliver your business in that capacity when we get out of this pandemic? And a grant might be able to help you work through some of those things, or bring in some new systems, purchase some new products or entities to be able to deliver to your customers what they ultimately want. And that is what you are offering them. So once we're able to do that, then what we want to think about is how are we going to continue or discontinue certain elements of our business as we adapt to the post-COVID future. And if it's discontinued, right, elements of our business are no longer functioning in the same capacity, is that, creating a gap for our customers, and how are we going to fill that gap so that we don't lose those valuable customers, right? The people who rely on us to provide what we provide. It's meaningful for people.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So that's what you're talking about when you say the emergent needs of your business. You're talking not in terms of an emergency situation, but you're talking more in terms of what is coming next.
Yes, and that could also be emergent need, right? If we had a staff team and we're no longer bringing in the same revenue, and maybe some of those staff were furloughed, or maybe they were, unfortunately, we had to lay them off, you could theoretically secure grant funding to bring them back on without using a grant through the SBA or Paycheck Protection. Not that there's anything wrong with those avenues, but if you could find other avenues to bring more of your team back on, then why wouldn't you want to pursue that, right? And so going forward, maybe those folks that are on your team, maybe their role shifts a little bit, so then you could plan for some of that shift as well. So you really, the creativity that you develop as someone who receives grants, that's really up to you, because you're the one proposing to that funder what you'd like those resources for and how you're going to use them going forward. So I think creativity in that aspect, I mean, creativity is always fun for me, at least, right? But you really are in the driver's seat of what your business looks like if you receive a grant to help you move, in that new direction post-COVID when we are all out of this, because we're coming out of this, right? We're not going to stand for this and stay here, right?
Yep, like Liz likes to say, all storms eventually run out of rain. And so there is going to be a time when this is all in our rearview mirror. And I think for most of us, what our goals are during this time is to really remain viable, but certainly support the people who need us now and set ourselves up to be relevant in the hereafter or what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And rely on your team members. If you have team members or if you're a solopreneur, the people in your circle, I mean, this group is fantastic support, for a lot of us. So rely on the people within your network, within your support groups, right? To ask them, what if I tried this? Do you think this is a good idea? Let them know what your ideas are for pursuing grant funding. Because remember, the people who are reading our grant application, they probably don't know us, right? They've never heard of us. They maybe are unfamiliar with our business or our service or our product. It's up to us to tell them why it's beneficial without doing that, typical, dry elevator speech, right? We want to give them some information that's new and unique and different and test it out on the people in your circles, because those are the folks who are going to give you that critical, honest feedback, so that when you do pursue those grants, you know that you're putting your best foot forward and your best presence of your business forward.
Awesome. So, any other suggestions about how grants can be helpful for us to set our businesses up to thrive in this, what we're knowing is going to be a post-COVID society?
I would say right now, and I think I mentioned this when we first jumped on, there are more grants out there than ever before, especially for small businesses, even large businesses, right? But many of us in this group are, we're relatively smaller than, the larger corporations, but that's okay because we're just as fierce and we're making that big of a difference, right? But there's more opportunities out there than ever before. And if we want to continue to have those opportunities, then we need to say, hey, my business is Grant Right Now. Here's what we do. We teach people how to write grants. We write for them, and we also do consulting. And here's some of the stories of our clients and our customers. Here's some of the things that our students have been able to do as a result of gathering for their learning around grants and fund development. And share that with people. And don't be afraid to talk about your business and share that with people. Because what we need to do is we need to be pursuing these grant opportunities now so that they stick around after all of this is over, right? That it doesn't go back to, oh, well, there's really only a couple, if not even a handful of grant funding for businesses out there. And the level of competition was so high that we really didn't have much of a chance, right? I mean, look at Burt's Bees, for example. They're a fantastic company. They give a lot of funding out to small businesses and large businesses within their foundation. But you have to meet an income threshold that many small businesses don't meet, so they're ineligible, right? But the nice thing about Burt's Bees is if you are selected as a grant recipient, and I know someone who was, they have Burt's Bees School. So they have a whole entrepreneurial school that awaits you as a potential grantee. So along with these opportunities, the grantor or the business grants, they are also offering us really outstanding business education that we couldn't necessarily purchase even if we wanted to. So thinking about pursuing those opportunities, and if you have an idea for a grant, commit to that idea and just steam ahead and go for it. And show up in your industry through, you all hear the word transparency, right? We were talking about that on a live we did in our mastermind this morning. Transparency is so important because it shows the world that they can trust you, right? That you can build relationships with other people because you're willing and able and want to, and that you're not afraid to share the good work that you're doing and bring people into that so they can help you be successful while you help them be successful as well. So there's really no reason other than a possible ineligibility, right? We're not eligible for those grants, that we as small businesses or even larger businesses shouldn't be pursuing those business grants now and advocating that they stick around in the future. Because when we have resources that we need, that's when our business is able to thrive. When we're able to deliver to our customers, that's when our business thrives and our customers thrive. So keeping those messages afloat is really important.
I really enjoy what you're saying, and I think that it's we call these times unusual times, unprecedented times, all sorts of adjectives that we use to describe these times that we're living in. I like to look at it as times of great transformation. I firmly believe, and just based on my own personal experience in my life, that in times of challenge is when we grow the most. That's the time when we really have an opportunity to transform into the next thing that is also the best thing. And I do believe that this may have given us an opportunity to clue into funding that is available that we might not have even given a second thought before, giving us an opportunity to pay attention to ways that we can actually grow our businesses in maybe a faster way than we had thought possible before. And perhaps looking at these things as opportunities as opposed to stopgap measures, like you're saying, is definitely a more positive way to look at things. So, Rebecca, you've given us a lot of information. You've told us how we should be looking at this. You have pointed out to us that there are a lot of grants out there that we haven't ever even thought about. How do you play into this whole picture? How can the Ladies Lunch group look to you for support? What does that look like?
Sure. I mean, you're always welcome to participate in one of my classes. They're really non-traditional, right? I mean, as you can see, the conversation we're having isn't a PowerPoint where I read off and tell you, I really like this conversational way of teaching and bringing people along. I think it's more meaningful when we can participate like that as opposed to just being taught at. So my classes, you're more than welcome to join through there. There's maybe
how do we join your classes?
Sure. So I'm posting the new schedule next week. So this is actually prime time because we just wrapped up a bunch of classes at the end of last week. So you can go to my website. It's GrantWrite, WRITE now.com. And you'll see the schedule there. It's going to pop up on Monday. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me at rebecca@grantrightnow.com. I love hearing from people. I tell my students and clients, after our time together, we're still in each other's network, so feel free to reach out. If I have any resources that I'm aware of, I'll pass them along to you. And even if you just want to jump on a call and talk about what your business is about, I love learning about other businesses and exchanging that passion with people. It really keeps me going. So I am available and excited for you. When people say, well, why would I apply for a grant for my business? I say, well, why would I want to be one of your customers, right? And they say, because I offer great products. So then if you offer great products and services, why wouldn't a funder consider that as well to help you be successful in bringing that along? So I'm available, and I look forward to chatting with you all again.
Okay, well, that sounds wonderful. And is there anything else that you wanted to say before you leave? I know there was one question, and that's what I'm looking for here. There was one question in our on our Facebook page that somebody had, and I'm just trying to find it before you go.
Oh, here, I see some chat questions here.
Okay.
Are there any grants for sole proprietors? Absolutely. So some of the grants out there, well, all grants will tell you eligibility criteria, right? If you are a sole proprietor or if you have one or more employees. So there are grants available for sole proprietors. You can look through the Verizon Foundation, the Spanx grant. I know you have to have one or more employees. And there's also a lot of grants for women-owned businesses. What I can do is I can pop some links into the Facebook feed after we wrap up today so that you can click around and start exploring some of these opportunities. And
I have a question, Rebecca.
Sure.
My question is, you just mentioned that there are grants out there for women-owned businesses. Do you have to be a certified women-owned business? Because I know that's a pretty extensive process.
Not unless they specify. I don't believe you have to have the certification for the state or the federal, but I do know for a lot of contract work that if you were to pursue with the state or federal government, and sometimes those are grant opportunities as well, you would want to get those certifications in place. So,
Okay,
but
thank
I wouldn't think that was a disqualifier. And a lot of funders will have FAQs, they'll have frequently asked questions. So that's something that you want to search for. And if that funder has a link for an email address or they're accepting questions, that's something that you'd want to ask them directly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Debbie had a question, but I don't think she managed to be on the call. Her question was, I have always thought that there must be grants out there for certain populations that I'd especially like to reach with my workshops that encourage and also teach self-care avenues. I know that survivors of trauma are often not able to work or not able to work full-time to afford luxuries such as creative workshops or retreats. I really, really want to know how to do this successfully.
Certainly, and that's a very big question. It's a great question. We can certainly talk offline further if you'd like, but what I will say is a lot of grants right now are not just available to provide people with the basic emergency food, shelter, and clothing. Personal health and well-being, mental well-being right now we're really being challenged with all of this isolation. People like social interaction, and social interaction on social media isn't always, a good thing for your only source of social engagement. So funders recognize that, and they're looking for opportunities to fund businesses and individuals and entities to offer some of that social connectedness going forward. And I would say that your program, the little that I've learned about it in just a moment, is probably a more favorable opportunity for folks if you are trying to, or if your business is responding to some of those emergent needs now and later on, because we always need, that support, that emotional support, that well-being support.
Debbie, I'm gonna unmute you so that you can, well, if I can find you on my list, I can unmute you so that you can, there you are. Okay, so that you can say more about your question.
Do you need to have a brick and mortar in order to receive a grant?
Not necessarily, not unless the funder specifies. I mean, I work in my home office and then I travel the country to deliver my services, and then I deliver a host of them online. So again, my deliverables are non-traditional. I don't have a storefront, and, I have received grants, and my business is, functioning favorable the way that I deliver to my audience. But no, you don't necessarily need a brick and mortar. It just, you have to be really concrete and really specific about how you're going to deliver your services when you apply to these grants. But a lot of these grants, there's a difference between a grant for a business versus a grant for a business in the midst of the pandemic, right? Some of the business grants for pandemic grants, they're not asking for that level of specificity, whereas the other folks like the Burt's Bees and the FedEx, they are asking for that level of specificity. But just talk about your business as though you would to another person or a customer when you're describing it. And that's what funders want to hear.
Okay.
So Debbie, what I'm thinking is that you might be a good candidate based on what you're offering for some kind of grant, and that maybe tuning into Rebecca's class might be a good idea for you.
Yeah. No, I'm very, very interested.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Marianne, I'm going to unmute you because I saw that you dropped a question in the chat. There we go. Okay, I'm not able to, there. I think we're both trying to do it at the same time. Yay, technology.
I was trying to accept your unmuting. You were just telling, okay, anyway. I have an LLC and we're a corporation, you know, as an LLC. But we don't have employees. It's primarily me right now, you know, although my husband is in the LLC with me. And I do a lot of, I do more coaching kind of presentations. So again, mine's more digital, online kind of thing. I do see clients occasionally in my home, where my home office is, because I have supplements and things like that. So, you know, I don't have any employees per se. You know, occasionally I'll have VA work and stuff like that. But is there, you know, anything like that that would be more online or digital service based presentation?
So you do have an employee and it's yourself, right? So you're employee of one, right? Because we pay ourselves as sole proprietors or LLC, right? If your husband, and I can't really give you accounting advice.
Sure.
You know, especially in a forum like this. But if your husband is part of that business, that might be something you want to talk to your accountant about in terms of the designation or the status of your business and the number of employees. But there are absolutely grants out there. I myself do coaching. You know, my business is writing, coaching, and training, you know, and it's all within the same consulting organization. So there are opportunities out there. Again, it's based on the eligibility of the individual funders. So you could look to the Connecticut Council for Philanthropy is a great resource. On their website, they primarily tailor to nonprofits, but they are the house for Connecticut with all the philanthropists, and they have a membership of philanthropists, but they have been also listing grant opportunities there and links to get you to opportunities for grant funding for business. So check those folks out. They're fantastic. They also do education, and but they're primarily there to make you aware of opportunities and serve philanthropists. The philanthropists are the people who grant the grants, right? So absolutely check those folks out. And I'll drop that link. Let me just write that down. I'll drop that link in there as well.
And then if I'm in Texas, then would they have an association kind of like that here?
So every state has a central location for their Council for Philanthropy. So you would just look that up for Texas. And if you couldn't find it, you could call Connecticut or email Connecticut and ask them. They should have a master list, but they should also probably, you find that within their website too. And the reason why these Council for Philanthropies are so great is because in the absence of a grant application, they have a template application that each state has that you could use to draft your grant proposal.
Okay.
Thanks, Marianne. Are you complete?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm gonna unmute you, Stephanie. I can't see you, but I know.
Hi,
Oh, there
I'm
you
here.
are. Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. So I saw your question about special needs kids.
Yeah, so basically, I'm a naturopathic physician and creative arts therapist, and I do a lot with special needs kids. And I know there are times when I can partner with organizations. We want to do a social group, maybe partner with the library, which is a not-for-profit. But, you know, looking at grants, I see so much more of not-for-profit than I do, like I'm, you know, run Lego groups. I do different things where I'd like to be able to give scholarships to kids, especially low income. I see a lot of kids on Husky. So I want to make programming available, and people don't have to worry about, you know, being able to afford things. So I just don't know where to look.
Sure. So that touches on what we were discussing a little bit earlier, in that there have not historically been a whole lot of grant opportunities for businesses. Until this pandemic, it's almost as if the opportunities have quadrupled almost overnight, of businesses realizing that it's really important that not only do we, you know, work on our infrastructure ourselves, but that we support and lift up other businesses, because again, we're all in each other's networks. So to your point about opportunities to collaborate with school districts, oftentimes what small businesses would do without those grant opportunities available to them is they would partner with nonprofits and organizations that were eligible for grant funding, and then you would be written in as a collaborative partner to offer your business or your services that way. But now businesses and you know, funders are really opening up to say, we want to still support those nonprofits, but we need to open up our opportunities to small businesses and businesses in general, because that's what's going to keep our economy going. And so there are more opportunities now than ever before, but it's really important, like I had mentioned, that we let people know just how important those opportunities are for us as businesses, so that they don't go away when we get out of this pandemic. And so figuring out, first of all, who else is offering what you offer and where does their support come from is really the best way for you to go out and explore opportunities for your business to pursue grants. Because if a business is receiving a grant from this organization or this funder and you do similar work, chances of them considering your application are probably pretty favorable. Doesn't mean it'd be funded, but it's probably favorable because you two are in the same niche area, and that aligns well with that particular funder's mission.
Okay, so this is being recorded, correct?
Yes.
I had trouble finding you after, so I missed the beginning piece. It sounds like you were talking a lot about that, so I'll go back and revisit that, but thank you for answering my question.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for asking. These are all
And
great
thanks for
questions, by the
joining.
way.
Did anybody else have any other questions? You could drop in the chat. You could just unmute yourself. Whatever works for you is fine. This is very informal here. Nope. Well, what I wanted to say, Rebecca, is that a lot of us, when we think of the idea of writing a grant proposal, it might feel a little bit daunting. It might feel like inaccessible in a way. What words of wisdom do you have to give us the opportunity to feel a little bit better about this whole process?
Well, just taking a poll in the group today, how many of you have ever written an essay? I know I have, right? We have, right?
Yes.
So if you think about what's in an essay, there's an introduction, right? This is what my business is about. Then there is a statement of need, right? Our thesis, this is why this is important. Here's what a little bit of research says of why it's important. And then this is what I offer. And here's the conclusion, kind of summarizing all of that. If you think about it in that way, it makes the grant proposal writing itself a little less intimidating because we already have done that in some capacity. That being said, depending on the grant that we're writing, because I'm writing every day, it is like writing my graduate thesis all over again, right? It is difficult, but supposed to be, because they want to invest in those right fit grantees, right? They don't just want to invest in anyone. They want to be investing in the folks who are clear about where they stand, what they offer, who they help, and how. And my guess is that if you are a thriving, successful business, you already have that narrative and that content somewhere, right? It's in your literature, it's on your website. So don't reinvent the wheel. Talk about your business in a grant the way you talk about it to your customers, and you showcase your presence on your media, right? Online, on your channels. You know, I might back up a little and say, don't necessarily be as formal as you might on your personal Facebook page, but you know, talk about your business as if you were talking about it in any capacity, and use the language you have, because what happens is funders, when they consider you, those are the places they're going to be looking to do their own homework to see what you're all about. And so you want the narrative to be the same.
I think, Nicole, are you raising your hand? Nicole, are you still there? Oh, okay, I thought Nicole was raising her hand, but that may have just been an error. So, all right, we can wrap this up a little bit. I would like to, Rebecca, offer you the opportunity to just share with the group how you personally can help us. And one more time, just share with the group how people can be in touch with us, with you.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to have an appointment with you. And if you had an idea for a grant, if you want to bounce that idea off of someone, I love talking and listening, you know, and hashing out opportunities with folks. And, you know, if you're more than welcome to email me, my email is rebecca@grantrightnow.com. You could visit my website, get my schedule there, connect with me on social media as well. But the one thing that I'll say is, even if you don't feel 100% like, I'm going to go pursue a grant tomorrow, there's something in the back of your mind that's pulling you towards considering it, just reach out to me and we can talk it out. You know, sometimes all you need is someone in your corner to say, hey, that's a great idea, you know? So don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. Now's the time to take chances. Now's the time to really, you know, take all the things on your to-do list that you were maybe hesitant or a little fearful of implementing, and just go for it. It's going to look so different when you do, and exciting when we all come out of this.
Awesome. So thank you everybody for joining. I want to say a very special thank you to Rebecca. I, as you know, host the Ladies Power Lunch group, and I think that our number one goal is to really try to see how best we can support each other always, but of course, through these times of transformation, I think there's a perfect opportunity for us all to be even more supportive of each other than we've ever been before. I am in search of the women who are ready to lead their own revolution, the women who are ready to stand at the front of their movements and change things that are going on in the world. And this is one of the reasons why Rebecca's job, not just teaching a man to fish, but giving him some grants so that he can start a fishing school and teach everybody else how to fish too, that just resonated with me so deeply. And I thought it would be a great idea to share her vision with all of you. If you know other people, other women, other members of our group, or even outside of our group who are leading the charge to making life better for all of us, I would invite you to introduce them to me so that I can bring them on and have them talk to the group and share their vision with the group as well, because together we're going to make it through this and we're going to come out on the other side bright and shining and just wonderful. So thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Rebecca. I apologize for all the tech issues and I will post it up in both the Facebook group and the Facebook page so that y'all can have a relook at this afterwards. Thanks guys. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.